spoiler alert, but it's the beginning of the film anyway. That we had intended, we shot it and intended it to be the on the end of the two towers, but when we, we're doing the final edit of the two towers, and it just felt wrong to finish the battle and then to have this particular scene on the end. It just didn't feel like a climactic end scene. But then I thought, well, it actually could be an opening scene. So we thought we would put it on the opening of Return of the King. But then when we did the theatrical version of Return of the King, again, it was just a long scene when the movie that was already quite long, Return of the King, north of 3 hours, warning. And so it just was just felt wrong. But however, the extended edition of Return of the King, which is what you're seeing, you're going to see the climax of the two towers with the death of Starman, courtesy of Wormtongue. I remember Christopher Lee being very irate that we had cut this scene out for road. I think he made some disparaging remarks in the press, but he didn't really understand about extended editions and anything. I said, Chris, it's going to be on the extended edition, it'll be great. But anyway, I'm actually, I'm very pleased that the scene is on the extended edition. Very pleased for Christopher. And then, as I mentioned in one of my other introductions, these three movies were shot at the same time, all mixed up. And I remember one day when we were filming up in the Hobbiton location. It was early in the shoot actually. It was about week 4 or 5 of the shoot, of the whole shoot, and then we're talking about the shoot was 265 days of shooting, so 266 days. So anyway, in the morning we're doing the bit where Gandalf arrives at Bag End, pulls up in the cart and bangs on the door with his staff. And Bilbo Baggins, and Bilbo comes out and gives him a hug. We filmed that in the morning, and then in the afternoon, same day, I had to just go down the hill slightly and film the scene where Sam walked back up the hill, having said goodbye to Frodo, spoiler alert, on Return of the King, and he hugs his wife and his famous last line, well, I'm back, or I'm home. So it was like when the morning fellowship in the afternoon to Return of the King. So it was a bit of a head-spinning thing to be shooting all this stuff. And I remember when I was shooting that scene with Sean, which is at the end of this film, I said to him, "Can I wait till that?" Because we were filming and then they were going to be released 1 year apart. And I said to him, "You realise that the scene we're shooting to now, the scene of you walking back up the hill, that this is not going to be seen by anybody for like 4 years, 4 or 5 years." And he said, "Really?" And I said, "No, it was kind of, it was a weird thing that this scene was just going to, sit unseen for so long." But anyway, that's all in the past now, and you're going to get to see it. The other big spoiler alert at the end, actually, with this film is the scene in the Grey Havens at the end of the film, where the 4 hobbits are together in the Grey Havens. It's an emotional sort of scene. It's quite long, and there's tears and hugs. And I remember we shot that, and our normal focus puller, who's the guy who has to keep the focus on the camera, was sick that day, so we had to find some stand-in focus puller to come in, who we haven't really worked with that much. And the camera was on a steady cam, and they were moving in the camera, and you've got to keep that focus and you've got to have a really great eye to constantly change the focus so that it stays in focus. So anyway, we spent the entire day shooting this very emotional scene with the hobbits saying goodbye to Frodo on the top of the Grey Havens, and everyone was so jazzed. I mean, they gave it everything those guys, and it was like they were saying farewell to the end of the experience of making the film, and the tears were real. And, it was really special, and they were sort of so buzzed buzz at the end of it, and then we had to, then that film would go off to be developed, and we'd look at the rushes the following night. So anyway, I turned up at the studio 2 days later, and the first thing I get are 4 hobbits coming towards me saying, "Did you see that scene? Isn't that great? Is it great?" Because they were really kind of jazzed about this final scene, and I had to tell them, I saw it, but it's almost every shot is out of focus. Almost every shot is out of focus, and they thought it was a joke. Oh yeah, a really good one. And I said, I'm not joking, because I was really heartbroken too. I was devastated. And then I remember Elijah Wood saying, "Well, let's just do it again." And that was that. We just went back onto the set of the Grey Havens, and we shot it all over again with our good focus spot at this time, and it was all fine. So and the guys did a really great job of making it as emotional as the first time around. So that's a sort of a memory that I have of this particular film. And also the thing that would be appropriate to do now at the end of all days is just to pay tribute to some of the actors that we've lost, because this is 25 years ago now, and you just have this awful experience where you read in the paper or you get told that somebody's died. So Bernard Hill playing Theoden, we lost him this year, and he was fantastic. After he finished filming, the Lord of the Rings, he would come to New Zealand with his son on vacation, and they'd stay in the house next door to us, and we'd have dinner with them, and that would happen over and over again. And so we stayed very, very much in touch with Bernard in the 10-15 years after these films. Christopher Lee, he passed away two or 3 years ago. And Christopher, he and I became really, really great friends. Every time I went to the UK after Lord of the Rings, I would always have an evening with Christopher. And usually at his apartment, at his flat. And his wife Gita, who's Danish, who was really his caregiver. As soon as I showed up, about 5 or 6 o'clock at night, she'd stick on her coat and, "Oh, do you mind? I've got some friends. I was going to," and I said, "Yeah, go get it." But she'd always leave us a bottle of this Danish alcohol. I don't know what it was called. It's like their version of Scotch. Bloody, it's potent stuff. And so Christopher and I would spend hours and hours going through a bottle of this stuff together, and because often Gita wouldn't come back till 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. But I was fine, because I was getting Christopher sort of juiced up on this stuff, and getting all the Hammer horror film stories, all the Dracula stories, all the I talked about the directors that he worked with at Hammer, and all the stuff that he never really spoke about. I was able just to sort of, and it was fine. And we were really good mates with him, and we just stayed in contact all the way through to his death. And Ian Holm, similar. I remember going to Ian Holm's apartment. After in the years after the films, and he was a Napoleonic, up as am I. So we would happily talk about Napoleon. He's played Napoleon twice, I think, Ian, and so we'd talk about that Napoleon, and it was fantastic. So those are 3 wonderful actors who were wonderful human beings as well, and I thoroughly enjoyed spending time with them in the years since they worked with us. They were really good friends. And also Andrew Leslie, who is not an actor, he was my DP. He was Australian, and Andrew came on to shoot Fellowship of the Ring. I'd never met him before, and he stayed, you know, and that was a partnership, if you like, because it is the relationship between the director and his DP who was arranging the lights and the camera. It's a pretty intense one, and we would bicker and argue about stuff, and you know, but in a good kind of way. And I'm an only child, and I just thought, oh, this, you know, Andrew is actually a brother to me now. And he shot King Kong, Lovely Bones, The Hobbit, you know, the three Hobbit movies. We just became a sort of partnership. And then after The Hobbit, he did another film with somebody else, and then he just had a huge heart attack in Sydney and died. And he was not very old. And that was a terrible blow to me, losing Andrew out of my life, because and it's actually strange. It wasn't a conscious decision, because after that I made a documentary using World War I footage, They Shall Not Grow Old, and then I did a documentary on the Beatles using footage that they had shot in 1969. And I look back on it thinking, you know, I'm actually avoiding doing a drama film because I would have to work with someone else who's not Andrew, and I think that, you know, his death really just changed my career path. And then for the last 11, 12 years, I haven't made a drama film. I've just, you know, because that would require me having to build a relationship up with another DP, which I haven't been able to face, really. I don't think. I mean, I will, and probably the day is getting closer that I'll do that. But certainly, it's taken me a long time to get over it. Losing Andrew. Just sorry, a really down ending, but I wanted to play tribute to those folks, and I wanted to play tribute to you, the audience, who have endured these films. And this is a long film tonight. Sorry, and I should stop talking and let you get on with watching Return of the King. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for your support, and enjoy.